Hey guys, I chose to do my research for this project on the Globe Theatre. Now in England, it's known as Shakespeare's Globe, the current version of it. And I think when researching the Globe, it's important to understand the history of the English drama in that time period. It was known as the Renaissance, and it was a real era of expansion, kind of overall. There was a lot of interest in all different subject areas, including science, philosophy. There was a lot of geographical exploration going on, and of course, art. And people really began to focus on becoming more well-rounded individuals. Prior to this, people would have their specialties, and they would be really good at the one thing, but a lot of people were focusing more on kind of broadening their mind and understanding things that they didn't really understand before. There was a lot of variables affecting theater during this time period, the most important ones, I think, being religious and political controversies. English drama really took a turn when the university wits and Thomas Kyd began writing plays for public stages. This really opened up a lot of opportunities for people in all different professions, including playwrights, actors, stagehands, everything. And this really laid the foundation for Shakespeare and a lot of the more contemporary playwrights of the time. I think when studying the Globe, it's really important to also study Shakespeare alongside of it, because of course the Globe Theatre wouldn't be what it is today without the influence of Shakespeare. Prior to the Globe opening, a few different companies performed Shakespeare's early plays. They played him in a couple different theaters. It was more of his romantic, lesser well-known stuff that he wrote early on. From 1592 to 1593, around that era, his plays began being performed solely by his company. And then after building the Globe, Shakespeare began producing his great tragedies, such as Othello, Hamlet, and Macbeth. And these plays were thought to reflect kind of the sinister acting performed by Richard Burbage, which was one of the main men in his company. Going into the Globe, it was built in 1599 by Lord Chamberlain's men. Lord Chamberlain's men, as we read for class, was a company of actors whom Shakespeare wrote most of his plays for, and they had exclusive rights to perform his plays. They founded themselves in 1594, and they're made up mostly of the men in the Burbage family. Shakespeare, of course, was a part of the group, and a few other notable actors at the time. Prior to the Globe being built, they performed at a few different theaters, the last of which they performed at was called the Theatre. And towards the end of their time there, they began having disputes with the landlord. And one winter, they actually went and tore down that theater, and they took all of the beams from that theater and they stored them in a warehouse in Bridwell. And they actually waited until spring and they shipped them on a ferry all the way across the Thames to the site of where they believed the Globe Theatre once stood. The site of the Globe was a marshy garden to the south of Maiden Lane, Southwark. So it wasn't directly in downtown London. It was actually a little bit outside of it. And it was close to farmland and open fields, and it was actually really subject to flooding, especially at high tide. And so during construction of the Globe, they had to build up a wharf or bank to raise the structure up above flood level to ensure there wouldn't be any damage to the theater once it was built. They used the beams from the theater, their previous theater, and even though they used these beams, the Globe didn't represent the old theater at all. It was much bigger, much more grand, and it was a place that they had really envisioned. There are discrepancies as to the first production at the theater. There's one account that says it was opened by summer of 1599 for the first production of Henry V. However, the first evidence in writing is actually from a diary of a Swiss tourist that accounts that he was able to see the production of Julius Caesar on September 21st, 1599. And he states that was the first production at the Globe Theatre. However, the first firm accounted for record is Johnson's Every Man Out of His Humor. It's well known to be the first play at the Globe, as the first scene welcomes gracious and kind specters alike. On June 29, 1613, during a performance of Henry VIII, a theatrical cannon actually misfired and set fire to the thatching that was the roof of the theater, and the whole theater actually burned to the ground. So it only had about a 14-year run, the original theater did. It was rebuilt in 1614, just a year later, until it was pulled down by the Puritans in 1644 or 45. And the theater that exists in England today was actually completed in 1997. And it was built to resemble the original Globe Theater and all of its dimensions. The actual dimensions of the Globe itself are highly disputable and highly unknown. So when building my model of the Globe Theater, I actually had to do a lot of research about different theaters at the time, and that's actually how they built the Globe that's in England now. They did a whole lot of research on English style, English pigments and colors and everything like that, and they kind of put it all together along with what we do know about the Globe to create what is now known as Shakespeare's Globe. Wenceslas Haller was a man who sketched a 17th century sketch that actually showed a round building as the Globe Theater. And that's what was widely accepted for a long, long time, until 1988 or to 1989, around that time. There was actually a small part of the original foundation of the Globe that was uncovered in England, which suggested that it was not round and that it was actually a 20-sided polygon. So when I created it, I actually created 20 flat sides all the way around, and that actually, it looks round, which is why people believed that it was. It was originally called the Wooden O, as people referred to it, but we now know that it was 20 sides. There were actually 3 panoramas that portrayed the Globe in England, and even these are contradictory in themselves, but they're the best images that we have of the exterior of the Globe, which suggested that it was a 3-story open-air amphitheater. So the thatched roof actually goes in, and there's a major opening in the middle. And the thatched roof just covers pretty much the walled seating area. There's also a roof covering what would have been the stage right here. And the stage itself was believed to have been 43 feet by 27 feet, about 5 feet off the ground. It was pretty standard for stages at the time. It had a trap door, which was also pretty standard for stages, that led underneath the stage, to add drama to the effects of the production. The theater itself was believed to have been 99 to 100 feet in diameter, held about 3,000 spectators. And at the base of the stage, they had what was called a pit, where the groundlings would pay about a penny to stand. And actually, pretty interestingly, they found, when they uncovered some of the foundation in 1989, they actually found a layer of pressed shells into the ground, like nutshells, that people would have been snacking on during productions, because these people that were standing in the pit would have stood there for about 3 hours during the production. They didn't have any seating. The rest of the spectators would have gone inside. There would have been galleries going all the way up the walls, 3 stories of them, and these would have been obviously a little bit more expensive as they were covered, there was seating, and it would have made for a more comfortable view of the production. There were large columns that would support the stage right here, and there was, like I said before, the roof that would cover the stage. And the underside of the roof, which you could see from inside of the stadium, was actually painted like the sky, had clouds and everything, and during productions they called it the heavens. Like I said before, the archaeological record regarding the Globe Theater is incredibly thin. What they did uncover is pretty much all they're going to be able to uncover for a while, as the rest of the original site lies underneath a Georgian terrace that we can't access right now. So what we do know of the Globe, that's pretty much it for now. in 1989, they also were able to excavate the remains of the Rose Theater, which was only 50 meters away from the original Globe. They found out a lot about the Globe from excavating the Rose. There's still a whole bunch of things they don't know, though. For example, they don't know how people got into the top upper galleries. They have predictions and stuff like that, but there's just no actual evidence about how it was all built. So when they did build the 1997 Globe, it was built based on Elizabethan building techniques. The outer dimensions were based on the panoramas, like I said before, and the decor and the stage are based on Elizabethan pigments and taste and colors and stuff like that. So even though they put so much research into it, so much effort, even the Globe that's built now, that's supposed to be as close a depiction as the original Globe as possible, there's academic scholars that say that it's all wrong, that there's certain things that are out of place, and really just no one's probably ever going to know. They say that the current Globe has problems with the acoustics, and that some of the seats, there's beams that are in the way of the stage. Some of the actors that act on the stage say that the stage is uncomfortably large and that at the time it would have been smaller to host some smaller productions. All in all, we just don't really know. There's no definitive evidence. So there's many scholars, but what is built today is kind of a compilation of what everyone believes to be the best possible Globe. There really probably is no theater, much less no building that has been so picked apart and researched over time, just trying to figure out exactly how to recreate, where Shakespeare originated. And all this controversy and dispute regarding the accuracy of dimensions of the theater just goes to show how influential productions and playhouses were at this time period.